Hey everyone, welcome back to Honest About the Irish, and I think this is probably going to be the most upset I've been since I've done this since last year. And yeah, and I'm going to try not to cuss. I'm going to try to be good. I don't want to get struck by lightning. I do not want to be bad. But if you have any kiddos, if you have any children or any young ones, which you probably won't because only 13 of you watch my videos anyway, so no, just that's a joke. Relax. I got 13 followers that are, I guess, my part of my little crew. I don't like to use the word cliques because I don't believe in cliques, because that was in high school and I'm an adult, but I'm not going to act like an adult. So thank you to all you 13 viewers out there who watch my videos, me ranting about Notre Dame football. So yeah, Notre Dame beat Toledo. Toledo, a powerhouse in the MAC conference, by the score of 32-29. Toledo is a tough team. Toledo is one of the greater teams in the MAC conference. Toledo can compete against powerhouses like Notre Dame, big time programs like Notre Dame. No, folks, no. I'm not falling for that trap. I've heard Notre Dame fans say that. Well, Toledo's a good team. No, Toledo. Listen, you don't say that when Toledo plays Alabama. You don't say that when Toledo plays Georgia, or Toledo plays anyone in the SEC outside of maybe Vanderbilt or Kentucky, that Toledo could compete with because they're at the same level almost. Okay, and no, I'm not even gonna give Toledo credit. The only thing I will say about Toledo, in a positive vibe, is that Toledo looks like they had the better key players on offense. They look like they had the better offense. They look like they had the more speed. And again, what do we say about Notre Dame football? What does B-Man say about Notre Dame football? They have trouble with teams. They have trouble with teams containing their speed. And we even saw Notre Dame do that against Toledo. Now, I thought last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I should say, coming up on 2 weeks ago, when Florida State was a fluke, it was just a bad game. They would learn from their mistakes. But you know what? Florida State lost to Jacksonville State on a Hail Mary. What does that tell you about Notre Dame? And I will tell you what that is, and I'll tell you what that says about Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not an elite program. Notre Dame is not at the same level as the schools I mentioned, like Georgia, like Alabama, Clemson when they had trouble, Lawrence last year. Even though they beat Clemson at home, they still gave up over 500 yards of offense, and they still got burnt on many plays and speed like they did against Alabama in that college football playoff game and the ACC championship game with Trevor Lawrence. Speed. And when you have a team who almost beat you in the MAC conference, Toledo able to stand up and compete with you with your speed, that is concerning. That is very concerning. Toledo made so many mistakes in the first half. They got a little too conservative in the second half. They weren't aggressive enough. I felt like Toledo was up by 2 touchdowns. That's what this game felt like. And Toledo made some dumb decisions. Toledo made some dumb play calling and dumb penalties and that shot themselves in the foot. Toledo could have won this game by 2 touchdowns, where Notre Dame was actually picked to win by, I believe it was 17 or 18 points, 3 scores. And Notre Dame did not play like that. Notre Dame played like absolute shit. Their offensive line is terrible, which has been great the last 5 years. Their running game looks terrible. Kyron Williams looks like he's running into a wall. It's too slow developing. And when Toledo's defensive players and linebackers are getting past the offensive line and they're getting after Tyler Buckner or they're getting after Jack Cohen, that's concerning, because what do you think is going to happen when they compete against teams like, Cincinnati, even Purdue, who are better teams than Toledo, who probably recruit better than Toledo? Cincinnati is a top 10 team. North Carolina, Virginia Tech. What do you think is going to happen? And like that win against Florida State doesn't mean anything because Florida State got beat by Jacksonville State. And I got to sit here and I got to act like a little child because I'm fucking pissed. Because I have never been so angry about Notre Dame football than I was Saturday ever in my life. I've been sad, like in 1993 when Notre Dame lost to Boston College. But you know what? I don't know why I even get mad anymore, because this is what Notre Dame football is. Notre Dame is not what it used to be. Notre Dame is not what it was from 1987 to 1993 when Lou Holtz was there. That was the golden era of Notre Dame football in my lifetime. That was the golden era. The golden era in the old school era for my parents, uncles, etc., blah, blah, blah. We're in the 1960s and 70s, okay, with Ara Parseghian. My era was Lou Holtz. And we're never going to see that again. And maybe I'm spoiled because Brian Kelly has been successful the last couple years, but then again, he can't beat the big teams. And then again, you know, he plays down to the opponent's levels like Toledo and Ball State a couple years ago. Yes, Brian Kelly has won 11 games here and there. Had a couple undefeated seasons, but got blown out in the bowl game or got blown out in the college football playoff program, whatever you call it, against Clemson, and that was against the ACC championship game, Alabama, and you know, in Clemson a few years ago when they lost like 31-6, or was it 31-0? I don't remember what it was when they got blown out by Clemson in Dallas. That's what Notre Dame is, and they clearly showed that on Saturday, and I don't even know why I watch it. Because I'm a fair weather fan. If they go ahead this weekend, they blow out Purdue, which they won't, because they'll play with Purdue's level. If they do win, it'll be like a 31-28 game or 35-34 type of game. But if they go out and blow out Purdue like 49-0, I will be ecstatic. I'll be a different person. But right now, I'm pissed because of the way Notre Dame played on Saturday. Okay, let me tell you something about Brian Kelly that just frustrates the freak out of me. You know what that is? Is when things aren't working. Things aren't going good. You're down. Your team looks like shit. Your defensive line is terrible. Your secondary is giving up big plays. Your quarterback, Joe Cohen, looks confused. Can't find anyone open. And what do? You do something smart. You do something intelligent. You put in another quarterback to add a spark. And you did that with Tyler Buchner, who looked more enthusiastic, who looked faster, who was a mobile quarterback, who's a little bit more athletic than Jack Cohen, who is a escape dual threat quarterback, unlike Jack Cohen, who's a gunslinger, steps back in the pocket, looks around and gets sacked. You put Tyler Buchner in there 3 plays. He looked great. He did the read option great. You use Kyron Williams in the backfield, who looks sluggish in the run all day. And what do? You go back to Jack Cohen to back to the sluggish offense. That drives me crazy about Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is the most, and I understand Tommy Rees does the play calling, but Brian Kelly is the most frustrating coach that Notre Dame has had. Yes, since Tyrone Willingham. Yes, since Charlie Weiss. Yes, since Bob Davie. And then, of course, the Yoda of Notre Dame football, Lou Holtz. I was never frustrated with him. But the thing that frustrates about me with Brian Kelly is that he never sticks to anything. Remember last week when I complained about Notre Dame not accelerating, not keeping their foot on the pedal? They let up against Florida State. He does that with his decisions. And I'll tell you why he does that. Because Brian Kelly is a complete moron sometimes when it comes to his coaching. When you have something that works, when you have something that's working, and you have something that Toledo can't contain, you stick with it because you're struggling. You're going through the same issues that you did against Florida State. And then what do? You take Tyler Buchner out. And Jack Cohen wasn't too bad. I mean, he was sacked 6 times because the offensive line is terrible. Had a couple interceptions there. And then Notre Dame, by the way, Notre Dame had like 3 turnovers. That fumble and late in the 4th quarter was terrible. I thought the game was over then. I thought Notre Dame was going to lose. I thought they were going to be 1-1. But you know what? This game felt like a loss. But the thing that frustrates me with Brian Kelly is that he does not stick with a plan. You should have stuck with the read option the rest of the game because it was working against Toledo. Toledo wasn't able to contend with it. Maybe eventually Toledo would have made adjustments for it after halftime or at a timeout, but you would have dominated that game. You would have won more convincingly than winning 32-29 and actually having to come back and win that game with about a minute left when Toledo had the ball back. And that's not what happened. He went back with Jack Cohen, a little bit inconsistency, turnover, sacked. And by the way, that offensive line, what a real different offensive line that has been the last 5 years. I never thought I would come on here and criticize Notre Dame's offensive line, but their offensive line looked terrible. I believe there was 6.5 sacks or maybe even 7. It was not good. It was brutal. And their defense giving up big plays, giving up that big pass play and that big run play, just like against Florida State, like the big pass play that led Toledo to the touchdown to take the lead when there was about 2 minutes left, and then Notre Dame gave Toledo too much time left on the clock when there was about 1 minute and 10 seconds left, about 90 seconds left there in the fourth quarter. I really thought Toledo was going to go down the field and score a touchdown and win this game, and not really break my heart, because breaking a heart is different. This would have been a pissed off loss. This would have been like throwing my remote across the room, because I get like that. I throw little tantrums. So no, I am not a happy Notre Dame win. And listen, I've always said a win is a win, no matter what. I'm going to contradict myself. I'm going back on that. No, a win is not a win, because when you beat Toledo the way you did, and Toledo should have won that game. Toledo should have won that game easily. Notre Dame was lucky. Toledo played bad. Okay, Toledo did not look like a dominant MAC team. Yes, they've been a winning program at Toledo. They got good football teams for the MAC conference, but there's a reason why Notre Dame was a 17-point favorite. But when you sit here and you struggle with that speed, and you sit there and you have to come back in the fourth quarter, that doesn't tell you anything positive about your football program. That tells you that two things: you're not going to be good this year, or you just have a coach for some reason can't get his team up against teams like Toledo or teams like Ball State a few years ago, where they play down to their opponent's level. And this has been a problem with Brian Kelly that I've had. It's frustrating, folks. It is very, very frustrating to be a Notre Dame fan. And I've said this before. I don't think Notre Dame will ever be what it was. Okay, I mean that time has passed. You don't deserve to be a top 10 ranking. That's why they fell back to 12. When you struggle against teams like Toledo. And nothing against Toledo. I'm not sitting here criticizing Toledo, but I'm not giving anyone credit except that Toledo should have won the game, because Notre Dame was lucky. They could have lost this game by 2 touchdowns, but they didn't. Notre Dame is 2-0. I'm here left scratching my head. I don't know what to expect out of the Purdue game. I mean, I expect it to be close, but I think Purdue might have better playmakers than Toledo. And that's concerning, and we're going to have to sit here and see what happens. Am I going to be mad? Am I going to be pissed off? Or am I going to be all excited if they win like 52-0, but they won't? Or is it going to be another 31-28 kind of game where Notre Dame gets sacked 7 times, there's 3 turnovers, it's sloppy, it's terrible, and yeah, it does not look good, because they're tough part of the schedule against Cincinnati, against Virginia Tech, and then, of course, North Carolina. And, of course, even though it's USC, they just fired their coach today after the second game of the year. It's still at home, primetime game. There's still a rivalry game. That's going to be tough. So that 4-game stretch there, that 5-game stretch there, I'm kind of thinking maybe they'll win maybe 1 game out of that, maybe 2 if they're lucky, 2-5, or 2, maybe 2-3 out of that 5-game stretch there. I mean, they're going to lose some games this year. I'm not expecting them to go undefeated like last year. Last year was a better team. Yes, last year had better offensive line. The defense even seemed better last year, not against Alabama and Clemson, the ACC championship game, of course. But they just look lethargic. They look tired. I know it's a different team. Every year it's a different team. This isn't Alabama where you go to a Christmas tree and you pick a present every year that you love. Alabama's different. They just build their own programs. It's like an assembly line. Notre Dame, I guess it's a rebuild, but that sounds like I'm giving them too much credit, because they don't deserve any credit, because they completely sucked on Saturday. And I am pissed, and every Notre Dame fan should be pissed. So I hope Saturday against Purdue, I hope Brian Kelly sticks with sticks with the plan, sticks with Tyler Buchner, and they win. But I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I don't know what to expect. But knowing Brian Kelly, I mean, he'll probably be all over the place. Look, if Brian Kelly, and I said this on Facebook, and I texted this to friends, if Brian Kelly invented a stick shift, it would go from first gear to fifth gear to fourth gear to third gear, back to fifth gear, back to second gear, to first gear, to neutral, to fifth gear, and then eventually stop at the stop sign. And then back up to fifth gear to fourth gear, and then back into 1 gear, and then neutral park when he's home. That's how Brian Kelly's coaching style is. And I hope he sticks with the Tyler Buchner game plan. And I'm not taking anything away from Jack Cohen. I think if Jack Cohen had a better offensive line, they've got decent receivers and tight ends with Avery Johnson, and Mike Mayer. I mean, by the way, Mike Mayer was targeted like 5 or 6 times in the first drive there, and then he disappeared up until like the fourth quarter. And I don't know if that's because he couldn't get open or Jack Cohen wasn't comfortable. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But they need to get their playmakers open, and that's concerning as well. And that is pretty much it here today, folks. Hopefully I didn't cuss too much. I don't know what the cuss meter was at. I probably said 3 or 4 cuss words, so it's probably like at $60 because my aunt used to tell me every time I cussed, it'd be $20 given to her. So I'm probably at $60 to maybe $80. But at this point, you know what? Who cares? I mean, if they lose, they lose. If they win, they win. Because we all know that Notre Dame isn't going to win the national championship. We all know Alabama is going to. So that's pretty much how it is right now in college football. Alabama's a top dog, and Alabama is a Sears Tower, and Notre Dame is a 1-story duplex with 1 bathroom. That's what Notre Dame is, and they're never going to be able to build up to the Sears Tower and compete with that because things are different, things have changed. And yes, I'm being pessimistic today, folks. I'm being a negative Nancy, but I tell it how it is. It's real. Like I can't be confident in this team with the product they have on there. The only thing I can be confident in is Michael Mayer, and when Kyron Williams is in the backfield catching balls instead of running and getting stopped and losing gain, when they pick up a first down, and then you get a little bit of momentum, and then there's that freaking play that Tommy Reese and Brian Kelly always run, where it's a student body right or the vertical right, and he gets slammed around even against Toledo, and gets slammed around and loses 5 yards, and that kills the drive, and before you know it, it's 3rd and 17, they got a punt. That's basically what was happening the last 2 games. And I'm thinking here, Notre Dame could be 0-2 right now. That's the scary thing. Against a terrible team like Florida State, who lost to Jacksonville State. And I'm not going to say Toledo's terrible, but you're supposed to beat them. There's a reason why you were picked to win by 17 points. But who knows, folks? Who knows what's going to happen this weekend? But that is it. I'll talk to you guys later. Make sure you hit that like button or dislike it if you disagree with me. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm mentally ill. Maybe I need to have my head examined. Maybe it's just a game. I need to relax. But you know what? It's not a game. It's life. I'm not kidding. But that is pretty much it today, folks. I'm losing my voice here because I'm out of control. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Stay tuned for next weekend when Notre Dame takes on Purdue. That game will finally be on NBC, not the Peacock app. Well, it'll be on the Peacock app, but you'll be able to pick it up on NBC as well. So everyone, take care, stay safe. And I hate to say it, but go Irish. Bye-bye, everybody.